Brendan Rodgers smacked 3 homers, and Edward Cabrera was awesome. Let's discuss on Fantasy Baseball today in 5. Welcome into FBT in 5. As always, make sure to follow and stream us on Spotify. Today is Thursday, June 2nd. I am Frank Stanfield, joined by Scott White. And let's start with one of Scotty's favorites. Brendan Rodgers went 4 for 8 with not 1, not 2, but 3 homers across his doubleheader on Wednesday. 72% rostered means he might be out there in some leagues, Scotty.
Yeah, and all 3 of those home runs came in the second game. So he hit as many home runs in that one game at Coors Field than he hit all of last year at Coors Field. Did most of his damage on the road last year. It was a strange quirk that was part of the reason why I liked Brendan Rodgers so much, because if you could do that on the road, Coors Field shouldn't be a problem. Well, everything had been a problem this year, obviously, especially in April. But he actually showed signs of coming out of it for most of May. His performance in these 2 doubleheader games, it gives him a 19-game hitting streak now. And during that 19-game hitting streak, Brendan Rodgers has hit 373 with 4 homers, obviously the 3 in just this one game, and 6 doubles. And, you know, this game obviously happened in June, first game of June, but in May, Brendan Rodgers' average exit velocity, his hard hit rate, you know, they got back to where we expected to see them all along, where they were last year. It was, you know, you look at his StatCast page now for the full season, it still looks pretty awful, but it was better in May. Basically back on track. And with Coors Field as his home, I think it's good enough that Rodgers is going to be a serviceable starter for you, even in some shallower leagues at either second base or shortstop.
Yeah, and I think people need second base help right now, Scott. With all the injuries happening, Gene Segura is out 10 to 12 weeks. Max Muncy is on the shelf. Brandon Lau and Jonathan India have been hurt for the past month or so. So we need second baseman. Brendan Rodgers is definitely one that you can look at. What about waiver wire pitchers? Edward Cabrera made his season debut at Coors Field, and he took a no-hitter into the 6th inning. He gave up just 1 hit, 4 walks, 9 strikeouts in this performance. And per Marlins Communications, Cabrera is one of just 9 visiting pitchers in the history of Coors Field to pitch 6 scoreless and allow 1 hit or less. A couple other names, Jeffrey Springs was solid once again, and John Gray had 12 strikeouts against the Tampa Bay Rays. Scott, how do you rank these 3? Cabrera, Springs, and John Gray?
I actually want Springs the most of all the 20 swinging strikes in this game. He already had a top 10 swinging strike rate, at least if he did have the innings to qualify, he would have been in the top 10 for that. The changeup just looks like an elite pitch for Jeffrey Springs, and 3 starts in a row, 5+ innings. It's clear he's a true starter now after spending last season in the bullpen. So he's my number 1 choice. Obviously very impressed by what Edward Cabrera did in this game. That changeup, I don't know that it deserves to be classified as a changeup, given how hard it is. And he says he basically throws it like a fastball. But a lot of downward motion on it, and that's especially impressive at Coors Field, where you expect the ball to move less. And it racked up whiffs for him. He still did have 4 strikeouts, did Cabrera, in his 6 innings. And when we saw him last year, you know, he walked way too many guys. So that could still be his undoing. But he has a shot here to take this job and run with it for the Marlins. There's an opening that it's going to remain wide open for him if he's willing to take it. So Edward Cabrera worth picking up, but I'd prioritize him after Springs. John Gray was an impressive start. You know, most of the swinging strikes were on the fastball. Usually the slider's a swing and miss pitch. So it's just, I don't know that it's a formula he can sustain. He did mix in some of his other secondaries more, and maybe that made the fastball more effective, but didn't see a lot of signs for John Gray, signs of progress leading up to this.
All right. Well, if you want to add pitchers, you got to drop some. And can we drop these 2? Trevor Rogers goes into Coors Field. It's Coors Field, tough place to pitch, but he puts up another clunker. He gives up 5 runs. The ERA is now up to 5.80. And Hunter Green got a lot of strikeouts, which he always does, but roughed up once again. His ERA climbs to 6.19. Scott, would you drop Rogers and or Hunter Green for the names that we mentioned earlier?
Well, I wouldn't drop either for John Gray, for sure. The others, I think you could make an argument for swapping out any of those others. Personally, I would hold both Rodgers and Hunter Green over Edward Cabrera. I would be willing to drop Green for Springs. But preferably I'd hold on to Rodgers in either of those scenarios. I know he's been awful, but give him pass for the Coors Field start, especially since his changeup showed signs of coming around in his previous start.
All right. For more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to the Fantasy Baseball Today podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, your smart speakers, or anywhere else podcasts are found. And thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. We'll be back again tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.